Hey guys, I didn't realize I was not on mute. I was on mute and I was speaking. Funny. Anyways, uh, can you hear me? Arshad, Shaman? Yeah, okay, cool.
Yes, sir. Yes, you're audible.
All right, great. So, yeah, um the idea is pretty simple for the space. It seems there were a lot of execution issues. Let me actually change this name. How do I edit this? Oh, okay. So I just thought, yeah, let's discuss if here about any of the experiences people have faced. I actually tweeted about it. I'm gonna post that tweet under my under this thing under my spaces, and it appears a lot of people kind of under that tweet shared their experiences. So the idea is very simple to see कि यार अगर आपका if you faced any errors or share the experiences. उसमें एक राघव actually shared a very thoughtful concept. I'll try to pull it up. But meanwhile, it's an open space. If Arshit or Shamant or anybody else, Arshit just dropped off. That's weird. Anybody else who wants to, there's a lot of good folks here who wants to share their experience on today's execution. I'll be happy to. I'm gonna invite a few folks to speak. किसी और को भी कोई error आया आज मेरी can you guys see anything on the top of this what do you call it tweet on the space? I'm trying to manage this. How do you add a tweet on top of a space? No? Yes? No? I don't know. Okay. They have made it a little weird. So आज apparently it seems that Zerodha के साथ we faced an issue. Then it seems that there were a couple of issues there. One thing is they reject an order. They say that the order is rejected, and then they're actually filled it. And the other one, which is I think a lot of manual traders also spoke about, is this validation pending error. So an order went to execution queue, and then I think exchange connection broke or something of that happened, and nothing worked out from there. So anybody who wants to come and share their experience here, मेरे पास तो थोड़ा सा है जो मैंने शेयर करा अपनी ट्वीट में. I'm not sure if somebody can even listen to me. It's eerily silent here. अरे कोई तो बोलो यार, कुछ तो बोलो कि किसी को सुनाई भी दे रहा है. Can you guys hear me at all? I'm speaking in okay, I have somebody wants to speak. Hariharan, hey, Sandeep.
Since you touched up the topic, right? I'm actually a manual trader, so I faced that issue. Actually, you were telling about. I was just trying to cancel few of my, it was not getting cancelled actually.
So you had an issue key. The order was pending. It was not filled and did not cancel, right?
Yep, correct. So I was not even able to cancel that order. So it was just with the same error, and you were still staying there. But fortunately, that order, I mean the price, we never got to the particular price. But still, I was worried whether what will happen.
Right. So it seems Raghav had actually subtweeted. I mean, not subtweeted. He had responded to my tweet, and I'm just gonna read it out
Mhm.
for the benefit of the whole audience, and then we can see if we can make head and tail of it, or if we can make sense of it. So he says, "What happened today was more of a clerical issue." Actually, I'm gonna Raghav and I will probably do a more elaborate space on this, but just reading it out. What happened today was more of a clerical issue from Zerodha. So nothing more we can do for our engines in such error cases. they should have backups for instances like these. This error was not expected from Zerodha out of all the brokers. And then, sir, yeah, Shaman, you asked him, and he was like, there's a technical error in the server switch today, because of which the connection to the exchange broke down for some time. And I think this breaking down of the exchange connection is what some of the users also provided their screenshots of the errors they were
Correct,
facing.
correct.
That was the error that was coming by. And then he says,
The,
Shaman, just
that is true.
complete tweet, right? Just and then you can
Yeah.
speak. So it says, and then he says, usually such services are outsourced by brokers to people who handle these exceptions in full time. And we don't know if Zerodha is doing this or not. Sorry, Shaman, please.
No, my point is, there's other issues too. This validation pending, right, was happening to my trade since 10 a.m. today. They didn't
Oh,
really result in anything major. Validation pending, trade, the if I'm modifying a order, right, modification, whatever pending, that went on forever. And I mean, it didn't really affect anything, but it's still something that makes you freak out.
so validation pending. So I'm assuming this is automated, right? Your site is automated. Like this
Correct,
is an
correct. But manually,
so
sometimes I go and check my orders, what the trigger price was, what it triggered at, and I go and look at the history, order history, right?
right.
And if I look at some of that, it's very clear that there was like a significant delay. If I look at history, it'll say request, put order request received, validation pending for a long time, and then open pending, and then when I was modifying it again, modify validation pending. This took like few seconds each for each time. It's almost instantaneous on other days.
Right. But these orders were in the queue because it seems in some of our cases, these pending validations didn't even come in the queue. So it somewhere got in between and then Zerodha fired all of them together.
Hmm. Hmm.
Or,
Okay.
but you say you were able to, I mean, is it like these pending validation ones are able, you are able to see that in the queue?
Yeah, I can see this in the queue. I didn't face
Hmm.
the that error that everyone else got,
Acha.
but my this validation pending was a big issue for me. So
Hmm. Okay. Yeah. Concerning. So how did you manage it? Or what was
nothing.
the
I didn't
plan?
do anything, to be honest.
Okay. So
I
just
didn't
some
do
delays
anything.
and all.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Cool. Cool. Sandeep, you wanted to say something?
Hey, hi, Ankit. Yeah, I didn't had any errors today, but I had a slightly different question because I had errors at previous points of time. Is how to identify, or is there a way to figure out that error is because of something which is happening at our end, maybe internet issues or maybe code issues, or it is something which is happening at Zerodha, because a couple of times earlier I went into an elaborate discussion with Zerodha, and they keep coming back. No, this is everything was good at our end, and I'm not a extremely tech savvy guy. I know very basics of it. Somebody else codes for me, and I run the code. And but we were frankly not able to identify exactly where the error was, and it was not something big enough where a lot of people on the Twitter reported. So any clue with you or with somebody else on the space who can say these are the few checks which we can run to actually try and identify the cause.
Yeah, so see, one of the things I'm not sure if you're outsourcing this, then whoever your developer is, how they are coding it up, because a lot of it, these kind of checks need to be developed into the in the development environment. So the simplest thing to check whether you are connected to the broker is you can send a ping. So the ping is something like, okay, get me the current balance. So the API is up, but then API could be up, but your order API might be down. So there are few multiple checks, wherein you have to do the exception management, try and accept clauses through key. until as you own the code or you see the code, and you look at the error log, I'm not sure how can one decipher whether it was zeros or not. Like if I am building the code, if we are building the code and we know how we engage with zerodha or any other broker, and then we kind of log our errors and log our statuses throughout the day, then we can see that, okay, this is how our code is supposed to run. It goes into one block versus two block and third block. So we are able to catch कि यार वो third block to fourth block नहीं गया, or it did go to third to fourth block and send the communication to zero and zero that didn't respond. So that's where we can decipher it. But if you're outsourcing it, I think this job can be done more by the coder to ask him, heartbeat thing, margin check, all checks, the last order check. There are quite a few tests, which can be implemented. With it's a how do you call it? It's more peculiar to the infrastructure you're building rather than. I mean, I don't have a one size fit all answer for that. I don't know if anybody on the panel might have. I see Prashant Bhai is here, but yeah.
Hey guys, have to go for a work call. Sorry.
Sorry, I was just saying, yeah, I am actually into a discussion with my developer on trying to build this more robustly. But just thought that I would bounce it off and see if there is any good tried and tested shortcuts.
I wouldn't say there are shortcuts. It's a lot about how you build your architecture. I know Algo Temple is here. Maybe he does a lot of his own coding. He can add some thoughts on that.
So there are one way to check if our system and the zerodha orders are in check, unless until if you are not an high frequency trader, right? Once you place an order, you leave a gap of 5-10 seconds. Then you you call the position API and get the positions and check against the logs of what your algo generated. If they are in sync, then all good. If they are not in sync, then you can always send an error message to your Telegram. Now connecting with Telegram bots is very easy. I have all my errors sent to my Telegram bot. So this is one way to check if your logs from your code and the positions in Zerodha are in check.
That's in position mismatch error, right? I think I'm not sure if I got the Sandeep's questions correctly,
Yeah, no, no.
but it was more like generally, how do we know if something went wrong? Is it our code or is it Zerodha? Who fucked up? Basically,
Yeah,
the question is
precisely.
that.
So the codes which I think so most of us build have this position check done. But yeah, my question was ki, once the error has happened, how to really identify whether it is error at our end or error at Zerodha or somebody else. Zerodha is actually much better, but uh, at the broker's end.
Um, So when you, when you take your code to live, right? You usually run it in a test environment and check the logs, and you would always, back test it at the end of the day. And unless until if those are in sync, only then you'd be, taking it live, right? So I don't see why the code should behave differently compared to your backtest. Unless until you're pretty comfortable, you shouldn't be taking it live, is what I think. Yeah.
And besides, once the error takes place, right, then one of the things to do is to go back into the end of the day logs. During the day, like one of the principles we have built is during the live market, we don't touch the code. We'll anything, we close out of positions and exit. Whereas, we look into the end of the day key, what went wrong. And that's where you can try and recreate the sequence of events that led to that error. And unfortunately, it has to be done manually, and can be done by somebody who really understands how the code has been set up. Like, I, my partner, we can look into, okay, how it was sequencing and where it fell. Whereas if somebody outsourced it to us, then it's our much more easier for us to look into it and tell them, okay, this is how it happened, rather than like Sandeep, in your case, if you have the outsourced guy, he or she can look into the code and say, "Acha, this is how it fell," and that should be fairly. I mean, the kind of errors in which they will be ambiguous will be, let's say you sent an order or a packet to Zerodha, and then they acknowledged they received it, and then they didn't do anything about it, and then something else. Usually, that's a very, very, very rare kind of an instance. But yeah, digging into the code might help. We have Jags. You want to speak? Jack Scalper.
Yeah. Hi. Hello. Hi, Ankit.
Hey.
Jagdish here. So currently, I'm taking trades manually only. So is there like would like suggest best way to get started with automation? So I'm using Zerodha as a trading account.
Yeah,
So like, should we pay for the APIs or we can use any available GitHub links and we can develop on top of it on our
right. So I think I know what you're talking about, this Jugaad thing, right? So see, think about this way, that when you pay for a service, you pay for reliability. Zerodha API is where we found reliability for any of our trading accounts. We use the official API and we pay for it. Right. So the GitHub ones that you're talking about are makeshift arrangements. They're not very reliable. Yes, you can do a good job with it. I mean, if you're a really good coder, but if you're a good coder, I will still suggest you go through an API to make sure there are no errors and no mishaps during the live market. Uh, I mean, yeah, that will be my suggestion. I don't know if anybody would want to, especially if your name says, as if you are a scalper, as your name suggests. I would never go through the the Selenium or the web browser based Selenium back. It's like a backdoor entry into the system. Why take that risk when you can actually, when the API is, see, API itself is having issues. That's another problem once in a while, but it's still better than trying to log in through these broker Selenium based login through GitHub's ones that you're talking about. That's what I would say.
Okay, okay, sure, got it. Yeah, thanks.
Cool. Anybody else, guys? I mean, this is an open mic. I just opened this up for people to come up and share their experiences, if today or somebody else, somewhere else, from an execution standpoint. I know S.
Hi.
What's your Sparsh?
Yeah, Sparsh here. Am I audible?
Yeah.
So my question is regarding today's I saw on Twitter regarding exchange adopter was off or something like that and kite. Uh, so I just wanted to inquire if someone has faced this error, whether it generated a market ID or what was the when we go to the web portal we see the order history. What stage the failure happened exactly? Uh, that I want to know.
If I understand it correctly, Zerodha servers are connected to the exchange servers, right? And there
Mhm.
are this. I'm assuming this will not be one connection. There will be a few parallel connections. That's why not all broker accounts, broker client accounts were affected, right? So it
Mhm.
seems this exchange connection to one of the Zerodha servers broke down. So what would happen is, the way the order life cycle will go is, you punch in an order through an API or through manual screen on your broker account. That first goes from your web terminal, so to say, or API terminal to Zerodha's server. So Zerodha, that's where Zerodha will run the validations that, okay, whether you have enough margin, whether you're subscribed to this, blah blah blah, whatever is needed, and that's when Zerodha will say, okay, the order is accepted. So Zerodha will accept that order on your behalf, so to say, and deduct your margin, whatever, and then transmit it to the broker. I think that's what they are trying to do. But Zerodha's acceptance will not revert. They will not. I don't think they will revert within acknowledge that the order is accepted, because they are just acting as a relay. They are taking your order and communicating it to the exchange, and before they communicate it to the exchange, they have to make sure that you have the margin and whatever, so that they will only communicate the right or the correct orders to the exchange. So I think that's where it failed, whether when they were trying to send it to the exchange. Now, Zerodha is not a single entity. There are thousands of accounts on that. And if the Zerodha's connection from their server to the exchange server broke, then they will have like a pipeline. Like imagine, like, you're going on a highway and your exit gets broken down, you will have a huge traffic. So I think that's where I think the run validation pending status started coming for a few people, because the exchange, they could not validate from the exchange that the order has been placed, and they could not get an acknowledgement from the exchange. So
Right.
does that answer your question? I'm not sure, and that's
No,
my understanding.
what I was asking, whether it generated a market order ID or not. So like in Python, we place order kite.place underscore order, right? So it generates a marker ID so that we can validate our order status.
Yeah.
Did it generated the market ID or not to
So
validate? And
you
second thing is,
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. I think the order IDs, there's an exchange order ID, which is usually communicated across the communication channels. I'm not sure if Zerodha has their own order ID on top of an exchange order ID. So if the order did not go to exchange, or they could not communicate to the exchange, there would not have been an exchange order ID generated. At least exchange order ID is very unlikely to be generated. Uh, I doubt they run their own order IDs. This is just another reconciliation pain. If they do, they would rather just use exchange order ID as the primary source of validations. But yeah, that's probably the first answer.
because I searched in the Zerodha forum, over there it was suggested to retry after 1 or 2 minutes. But will that be a good execution engine? Because it may happen that there would be a delay in order placing, and after that, if we retry it, duplicate order get punched.
Yeah, that's a fairly significant risk, and unfortunately not the one which can be easily managed. But you're right, because in that instance, Zerodha is kind of telling you that the order has not been placed, but they
Mhm.
are keeping it in a queue to execute it. So I think one of the somebody tweeted under my tweet that they were manually trading. They created an order on Zerodha terminal. It went into validation pending state, and then they couldn't cancel it, because I think since Zerodha is trying to communicate to exchange, they kind of stops you or prohibits you from trying to cancel it. Otherwise, they are constantly running a cat and mouse battle, right? So in a way, I mean, they were this was a manual trader, so he could see that it's a validation pending, so he would not punch more orders. But if it's an API, or if it's an algo, and Zerodha is not really returning a status, now I think Shaman earlier was saying that in his case he could see those as orders pending. So maybe your algo execution engine can look into the pending orders as a way of sanity check before firing more orders. That's one way. But agar wo wahan bhi, if it doesn't appear there, then it's a very a realistic risk that it can run into this over trading kind of a situation.
Right. So all we can do is like get a Telegram notification and just jump into a screen and see. Right.
Yeah. I mean, those kind of risk measures are anyways
Mhm.
more or less needed. But yeah, this is, I mean, in my experience so far, this is one of the rare tail events wherein it fucks up right at such point wherein it doesn't reply, it doesn't go forward, it doesn't go back. So you kind of have to maintain an offline watch on that, so to say.
Yeah. Thanks, Ankit. That's it for me.
Ankit, I also saw one more tweet from How You Trade. Um, so they had mentioned that when they placed the order today because of this adapter issue, they received a success code of 200. So typically, when that is received, the coder assumes everything is good, right? But eventually they found out very late that orders didn't go through. So in such scenarios, right? So how do we tackle those? Because
Yeah, I mean that's I was hoping there's nothing. I mean, we rely upon information communicated through the API in statuses or whatever to gauge whether this is correct or not. One thing I think
So,
what Arvind,
hey,
yeah.
yeah. I just want to add one more thing over here so that means everyone will get a more clear picture about the infrastructure at Zerodha. So what I found is that uh, they have a order handler that is a third party means application they use. Uh, so previously it used to have only one order handler at their end uh, till 2020 crash. And at the time of when 2020 crash happened and lot of order was getting stuck at their end and not going through uh, to the exchange in time, and it is creating a lot of delay over there. That time they added another order handler. So right now what they have is two servers. So uh, the stack is something like that. When you hit API, that goes to their API server, and from there initial sanity check happens, and then that goes to that third party order handler, and then that order handler passes that order to the exchange, like that.
So there is so Zerodha has two servers. It appears. Then these third-party order handlers must be more distributed.
Yeah, they have two order handlers. Yeah, Refinitiv, that is a software provided by, I guess, London Exchange, which handles the order for Zerodha. Yeah.
So the reason I ask is because not all Zerodha accounts face these order issues. Like some of these days when we have everybody facing an issue, and some of the
Yeah,
days,
maybe they are connecting to the different server then, because they have
right.
two right now handling.
So it's fair to expect that half of the people would have, I'm assuming both of their servers did not both have issues because some of our accounts ran very smooth without any error at all, and some of them were
Mm-hmm.
completely fuck all. So I'm assuming the one half of people or one half of the server that was perfectly fine, and this other half, whichever of these two, was
Yeah,
their
we can make this generalization that half might be facing a problem and half might not. Yeah,
makes sense. I see
it
Vivek
might be
bhai.
more nuanced, but
Yeah,
yeah, generalization is like that. Yeah.
Vivek, how are you, sir?
Yeah, hi, guys. Hi. What would you, bro? I just saw a topic and I had to join. I mean, there was no way I could not join in. So just getting home
Yeah.
for dinner.
So I don't know if
Yeah.
you notice any because you run quite a few brokers, right? So your kinetic thing. So did
Right.
you experience anything peculiar with Zerodha? A lot of us faced quite a bit of errors today.
Yeah. So I mean, just very specific today. I'm not sure, but generally in the last few days, like yes, and I saw some posts on Twitter about Zero Day, but generally last few days it's been a little more than normal with Zerodha because otherwise it used to be kind of among the most stable bridges that I know of. But I think it's just part of the game, and
Yeah.
we'll probably adapt to it. So
Okay. Cool.
yeah, but there's a lot
Anybody else?
just a lot more activity on happening around the bots, right? Like it's I think just growing really fast. I think far more than what some of us thought, at least what I thought. So I think it's creating a lot of overall pressure on the infrastructure as a whole. Generally, मतलब बहुत बढ़ रहा है. So I think it'll adapt, but like there's a lot of activity which we don't know of also. I guess.
So Vivek, you have you with your product Kinetic. I know you've been integrating with a lot of brokers, scaling up as well. So you guys must be putting some effort into scaling the infrastructure. So any guidance, any thoughts from that perspective to share with the audience here?
Yeah, so it's continuous, right? Like so you build for a certain uh, you basically scale sometimes faster than you are ready, and then I think it hits you, right? Like, so basically, one is, I think, a learning is that you first build the infra and then scale. That's always better, but somehow that's always not possible with everyone. I guess we are in different phases. So then I think we have to adapt, and then sort of make upgrades into things. One is the software architectures also, and two is the hardware. Now sometimes some people, I think, land up doing only hardware, and then that will not work, and then sometimes someone does only software and that will not work, right? So I mean, I'm sure you guys, Prashant, and a lot of other people who are running stuff here. Sumit is here, who will know far more about, I think, hardware and those kind of things, and me, like, so it 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 requires it's a combo of software and hardware, right? And then all your things, like, I mean, the back of your billing, lots of things. So I think it's something we are learning, and then you learn, and then you adapt and scale again and be ready to do the next round. That's how it is.
Sahi. Good. Interest. Sumit, do you want to add something? Share thoughts, man.
Uh, Nothing. I mean, I was listening to that one question somebody was saying. Instead of, despite of validation pending, the API gave 200 HTTP response code, right? So the one way it could have been handled is, okay, you get a 200 success response from an API because the servers were working and they responded with a success status code. Then you get an order ID in the response from Zerodha, right? Store that order ID in whatever database you're using and use that order ID to get the status of that order, whether that is validation pending, completed, partially filled, completely filled, like that. So that way you can track whether the order ID which was returned from Zerodha, what is the current status. If it is filled, then it is executed. If it is rejected, then you can re-trigger it. So that mechanism will have to go into the code, right? So that's what I want to share.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very interesting. Yeah, this is this is an okay. Very nice. I'm glad I'm recording this. I'll take notes on this.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sumit. Stay on if you don't mind. Yeah, Kash.
Hey, hi, Ankit. Yeah, so I just wanted to add with the point that Sumit mentioned. So that is absolutely right. And just to give a little bit more, technical side of it. So the HTTP 200 status code that you get, that is something that you are getting from the Zerodha server, right? And when you get that response, the order ID from the Zerodha side will get generated. So there are two different IDs, and I'm talking from the API perspective only. One is the order ID that is generated at the Zerodha site. Another is the exchange order ID, which is actually generated when the order is carried forward to the exchange, right? So when you actually make the request, and if you are using it on WebSocket based request, you will actually be able to like see the all the stages of the order as well. In the very beginning, when the order ID is generated, you will get a 200 response. Please do not base your trading only on that response, right? That 200 response doesn't mean that your order has actually been placed into the exchange queue. 200 response just means that Zerodha has got the order, right? And now it is going through multiple several stages before it actually goes to the exchange. So what you need to do is, once you get that order ID, and order ID generation is an asynchronous process, which means irrespective of the order is placed or queued to the exchange, you'll get the order ID. Once you get the order ID, use that order ID to track the status. And Zerodha status goes through multiple, lots of different statuses, starting from order request received, validation pending, open pending, modify pending, etc., etc. So wait until you get either a cancel or a trigger pending status. And once you get one of these status, then you know that, okay, your order is actually placed into the queue, right? Then you know that, it's the real deal. It's not just a Zerodha order. So So to summarize the point, please don't only concentrate on 200 success response. That is nothing. That is just Zerodha telling you that your order has reached to Zerodha.
Interesting, very interesting. Thank you, Akash, sharing your insight, man. Uh, I knew
Yeah,
मेरे को
just
I
to
was
add on,
wondering
Ankit, can I
myself कि
add on?
whether
Sorry.
zero. हाँ भाई please
Uh,
please.
yeah, so Akash, what he said, no, is the key actually of how we used to handle this in terms of the institutional algos way back, I think, a few years back, how the institutions used to, the programmers used to handle. And I think it's time where even we start uh, thinking that way. So it's probably saying that now,
Yeah,
even with
especially
the way things
with
are
given
changing,
the current
हाँ,
situations.
yeah, Akash, yes, absolutely. Yeah, so that's all the comment I wanted to make. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think अपना India में तो we with a lot of tech talent into this space, I तो find a lot of progress in the space. Like I am in US, right? I see a lot of traders here. मुझे तो लगता है यहाँ पे लोग बैलगाड़ी चलाते हैं. India में people are doing much better work when it comes to technology stuff. So there is no reason for us or any of the algo traders, even if they are doing a retail level, to not deploy such kind of measures, especially when on platforms like this wherein we are today. People come and share so many ideas, so absolutely fantastic. Yeah. We have another speaker, learner. Sorry, Deepak
Yeah,
Tripathi.
hi. Thanks, Ankit. Actually, I requested for the speaker option to ask couple of questions. So, no offense to other people here, but the question is directly to Ankit and Algo Temple. Is it a good idea to means how do you guys means made up your system with different strategies? Whether you code every strategy separately or you follow the object-oriented design principles where you configure the things and the one entry point is there for all of your strategies. That is the one question. The other question I'll ask in the same sequence, then I'll mute myself. The other question is we know that there is true data and some other data vendors, they provide the reliable data for the backtesting and other purpose. But we also get the historical data from the Zerodha APIs. So whether that data is reliable, anybody use that data? So that is the second question.
Okay, Algo Temple, you want to take that?
Yeah, I can take the second question first. So I have used historical API in the past, but the problem with Zerodha's historical API is that it is delayed by 15 to 30 seconds, right? So if your back test is based on candle close data, then there would be that delay to immediately execute the order as soon as that 1 minute candle is complete. So what I usually do is that I create my own candle based on the ticks. It's possible that I miss 1 or 2 ticks, but based on the the law of large numbers, it gets evened out in long run.
Okay, thanks for that answer, Helgo Temple.
And
The
on the
first
first
question.
question, yeah, and on the first question, I do run like multiple algos, and these algos are run in a separate code, which is totally independent to each other. And these algos would send a signal to a central execution system where it listens from multiple programs that is running parallelly, and that single execution system then transmits all the orders to the API.
Can I ask something?
Wait, please wait. Let's complete the.
Yeah, yeah.
Was it Deepak? Deepak, you have any follow-ups on that?
No, I don't have any follow-up as of now, but I got an idea how he executes. I follow him on Twitter, and I'm pretty impressed the way he put the data.
Yeah,
That's why the
absolutely.
question was directed.
Right. So one thing I would say is that almost everybody I know who's doing any sort of serious work, like managing people's money is a significant account, they all make their own candles through tick data. Nobody with serious money is relying on historical data. So it's like being penny wise and pound foolish. You rather want to subscribe to the best kind of products. And some of the, if you think about some of the bigger shops, they don't subscribe to one source. They subscribe to multiple sources as redundancies. So, subscribing to the best possible streaming data is, the real life of your product or your algo, and should not be, fiddled with or going through the other route of a free API credits or whatever it might be. And the modular thing, I think it's very similar to us as well. We use object-oriented programming a lot. So, wherein sometimes if you want to change a few parameters, if needed, we can quickly change it without having to recode everything. So, I think that's anybody who's doing it at scale will be definitely going that route. So, thanks for your question, Deepak. By the way, for just resetting the stage, so this is we faced a lot of algo execution errors today. We just thought we'll come in discuss about execution. It's everybody's discussing over every day कि market क्या लगता है, कल कहाँ खुलेगा, कौन सा put बेचूं, कौन सा call. This is an execution is a unglamorous point. So we have quite a few Steam speakers here. So it's an open mic. Please come in on the stage and ask. Vivek, yes. You are next, man. Please go ahead.
Yeah, we are talking about the API, which the order and the trade executed.
Yeah, I think we are talking about. I mean, that's one of the things. Order API is one of the other items to be discussed. Yeah.
Because it's a platform that the EXE that the Omnisys and the U Trade which are using. Because the Zerodha and the other trading members, they are using the in-house platform for developing their trading platform to execute the trades. So they are using the 200 lines and the 400 line for the executing of trades.
Is that a question? I'm not sure. I mean, what's the thought, or do you want to share something more a little deeper into what you are seeing?
Yeah, I'm saying that there are others trading member like Zerodha and Share India. It's in the Delhi. They are using a 400 message line, which is more faster than the 200 of message line. So it's executed and the order trades ratio is more faster than the 200 line. So we actually using this U Trade and the Omnisys software.
So you're saying why is Zerodha is looking at smaller, shorter message line? I don't know. Sumit, Akash, do you think you can answer?
I didn't get the question. Can you please repeat?
No, it's not the question. It's my thought that the trading members they are using the 200 message line because of the it's cheaper than the 400 message line. So most of the trading member using 400 message line in spite of 200. So that's why the execution and the order execution in the exchange is more faster than the 200. So
I see.
whenever the burden is on the line or the trading platform, it will get crash at any time.
Yeah, I
So
think,
am
I
I
mean, I don't understand much on the 200 or 400 lines that you said, but it's true for any kind of technical architecture, right?
okay?
So basically,
So
any queue which gets flooded with messages might get to a deadlock kind of situation, or where it.
because some of the orders delayed in the exchange, that's the only reason is that
Yeah, yeah.
because when we put an order in the exchange and it got delayed
Hmm.
and or it got cancelled delayed, so that is the main reason that when the orders more orders on that id got executed or put on that line, so it will get slow and the response time is very slow at at point of that time.
True, true.
Right, sir. That's fairly possible. Vivek actually left the stage, so that's fairly possible. That might be the reason. But let's move on. Satish.
Yeah, hey, thanks. Just one follow-up, I mean, not related to execution, but where Algo Temple was talking about creating bars from the tick data. I've seen the Zerodha's tick data is always like the initial open range or the first couple of minutes. It's not very accurate. So just curious about that. How is he handling that?
So Satish,
Thanks.
if you think about, I took this analogy with somebody this morning. Tick data are like oxygen atoms or oxygen molecules in near in your air. There's a lot of randomness around one tick to another tick. So the accuracy of tick is fairly hard to gauge. I mean, how do you compare the accuracy of one tick to another tick? It's just a tick. There's a stream of tick coming in, and there is no concept as such of accuracy of a tick. It's a tick. It's like a market. Somebody traded an order and an order took place, and then that order or that trade goes into a tick, right? It could be an LTP tick or Yash.
I mean, about the data. So basically, the data that Zerodha is sending is basically is not bad. Okay, so it is kind of the data that every other broker is using. Okay, so only difference between each other broker is key. Basically, the open high low close values at that particular instance might be different because the snapshot data, matlab, the OHLC that is being formed out of that WebSocket or basically snapshot data. Okay, so matlab,
Right. So what I was coming to add is that ticks at a given point are random within that small space of time. And then when you snapshot them, that's where the 1 second snapshot comes in. So it
hmm.
may happen depending, but yes, said depending on the WebSocket you have, your snapshot may catch a slightly different tick than somebody else. So there is no concept of accuracy as such because it's all still from the same market. I think that's the point I was trying to drive. Yes, please continue. I just wanted to make that clarification.
No, so I was just saying कि मतलब there is no blame for the broker side. I mean, data everyone is providing the same. Okay, everyone is getting the same kind of data that is being released through the exchanges to. I mean, basically the snapshot data. Everyone is using the same thing. Until and unless they are using tick data, मतलब that is actually not possible for the retail level. मतलब that might be costing somewhat 30-40 lakhs rupees. So मतलब this snapshot data is only being used by everyone, every other broker. And
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
Cool, cool.
Yeah. So
Uh,
the reason is, sorry, the reason is I do record the tick data and I've created minute bars from that. When I
Mhm.
compare that to true data, I always found some inconsistencies. But anyway, I always look at the true data as 1 minute data.
so
It's
there
a
is a
little bit of
reason for
historical.
that. See,
Yeah.
there's a reason for that inconsistency, and it's very fairly frequent. So true data. So there are some exchange has some authorized data vendors listed. So what exchange does is one of the things they also do is they sometimes backfill and back fix the data's candles as well. So that is why end of the day, jitna whatever trading has taken place during the day, end of the day, pay authorized data vendors, they might what do you call it, clean up the data a bit based on whatever the protocols are. So for back testing, it's fairly common and it's not you. And these are the some of the reasons, because in live market आप WebSocket के basis पे tick data से candle बना रहे हैं, and the exchange also fills some of these gaps during the market का candle भी change हो जाता है during the day. You will see sometimes if there's a concept called repainting of indicators on, let's say, trading view and whatever. And the reason is because once a candle closes, the exchange sends a true up kind of a signal which will make sure that data timestamping is accurate across the data vendors. So that's also a reason. So these kind of live to backtesting data differences will exist, and they are not really a bug, but part of the you can call it a feature of the market space that we operate in. Just adding that.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Thanks.
Sadar ji, what's yours? SG Money Wale.
Hi, hi guys. So my question was a follow-up to previous thing that Algo Temple replied that you have a system which has distributed system which will send to a single execution place. So how much of redundancy have you built into your system? I mean, I have a system which I built of something that I found on GitHub. Is your code on GitHub or if you can tell me how much of redundancy you built into your system? Let's say if order fails, what do you do? Or if you send a limit order, it doesn't execute. How do you handle those things? That was my question.
Yeah. Um, Ankit, I'll probably invite Algo Coder, who is my partner, who is also in the
Yeah, please.
call
See,
to speak up.
I'll make you a co-host. Yeah, you can invite anybody. I'm not sure who's where, but please do that. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Are you able to add? You are now the co-host, so you can add anybody you wish. Like.
I don't know if there's a 10 speaker limit. I will
Oh,
just,
acha. Okay,
I will
let me
leave.
remove.
Yeah, if needed, I'll come back. Okay? I'll just be a listener.
Ma'am, okay. I'll remove a few people who've not spoken for a while. All right, now try.
I I think I think he's on a listening mode. Um,
Acha.
Probably I can take up that question. Can you rephrase that question?
I think the person who asked the question either dropped off.
Okay.
I don't
Okay.
see him. Maybe we can go to the next member,
Can I?
Rajinder,
Yeah.
and then we can wait for the others.
Yes, I wanted to ask about the technical infrastructure you use. Let's say, because right now what I'm using is like AWS free tier, just to keep my operational cost low. And I'm running like multiple strategies through multiple scripts together. Let's say six strategies. Okay. And on one instance, if let's say if all of them are running parallelly, so the CPU usage goes up. And then obviously, if the CPU usage very high, code will have some problems. So to fix that, what I did was basically I placed all my orders in the system and just included sleep, let's say of 15 to 20 seconds in every code, in which it would be just checking the order book if the all orders are fine or not. So I'm not using any WebSocket, I'm not using any LTP, just using the order book and just some mitigating factors. So I wanted to ask, like, let's say if I want to upgrade, if like want to scale up, what is like the best infrastructure to go with? Thank you.
Temple Bhai, you want to answer that? He also went away. So, let me kind of ensure I understand what you're saying. So, you're saying they have, let's say, 6 instances of your 6 algos, and you are not using WebSocket, but you're kind of doing this reconciliation with the broker accounts.
Yeah.
And so, but broker, so how do you punch the orders? Through the API, isn't it?
Yeah, through API. It's just one instance in which multiple, like, I don't know. There is a feature in Linux called screen, in which you basically can divide one instance into multiple screens. And each screen would be basically running a code in parallel. It's just like we open a Chrome and we open 6 tabs, and each tab is doing something. Okay. So this is one instance. Just imagine it as Chrome, that okay, one instance, one Chrome, you have 6 tabs, each of them is running in parallel and then basically are executing each script. So in this case, just to mitigate the risk of everything hanging because the infrastructure is low, I've just included sleep let's say after the orders are placed, I just sleeps, the system sleeps for 20 seconds, then go back again, check the broker API to see all the orders are working fine, they're not complete, cancelled, and etc. So first of all, is that the right methodology? Second, let's say if I want to scale up, if I want to do it like 10 or 15, like what is the infrastructure? Right now I'm using, let's say, T2 micro, which is very basic, one CPU, 1 GB RAM only. So if I want to scale up, what is the best thing to do?
So
Or is
can
this
I
the right thing? Is it?
can I
So
take this question?
if I want to, yeah, Akash, just one
Yeah,
second. Let
sure.
me just add one line and then you can. Right? Sorry to. Rajinder, I think the sleep wala question I'll take, and then I'll have somebody more technical take up the AWS related question. So sleep, see, if you sleep is a function of how frequently your strategy is trading and what's how sensitive it is to the latency or these delayed execution, right? So let's say you have six algos and they are all independent, and you're sleeping only for 15 seconds after one goes into execution. And your holding time is, let's say, 4 hours, 3 hours, 2.5 hours, whatever might be. Then it's not a problem. You are just trying to kind of balance the load within your infrastructure, right? That's what I am assuming. That's why you set it up that way, rather than, because I think AWS charges you for the max usage in a given tier, and then rather than consuming all computation in 1 second, you are like distributing it within a minute, right? So something of that can only be answered by you, the strategy creator. Here, how sensitive I am that all my algos or all my accounts enter or start looking for execution at that very moment, and that should define. Otherwise, uh, the problem might be कि अगर until unless, let's say you reach 100 accounts and then you're sleeping for 15 seconds each, then you take 25 minutes to enter your whole order book, or like all the accounts. Then I think that's where some of your challenges might come in, and you might have to look for parallel processing
Yeah,
or distributing it through the servers.
yeah, it is parallel processing. So every 20 seconds, all five scripts are looking to each other, not in series.
So फिर तो मतलब मुझे, I don't see why do you think it's, I mean, I'm not sure, maybe I'm not getting it correctly. Why do you think it's a challenge, or what's the problem that
No,
you
no, no. I'm just
foresee?
no, no, no. I just wanted to know if there is nothing wrong. Yeah,
Yeah.
just wanted to validate.
Yeah, Akash, please.
Um, no, I mean, I think what Ankit said, I 100% go with what he is saying. So maybe I have not understood your question properly, Rajender. But let me just add a few
So
points here, right? So first
yeah,
of all, if you're using sleep, right, the whole concept of sleep is irrelevant if you have a parallel processing system. Okay. Uh, Number two, I I guess you are not using WebSocket, right? And that's where this whole problem is coming. If you are not using WebSocket, I will highly encourage you spend some time and change your code to use WebSocket. Once you start using the WebSocket, it creates that socket from the Zerodha system to your system where data and all your the WebSocket is not only for your tick data. Through the WebSocket, you can monitor your order book as well, right? The real-time order book, right? So all of these things then keep starting in. Now you don't need sleep. Sleep will not reduce your AWS cost
Akash,
anyway because
Akash,
yes.
sorry, I think
yeah,
sleep wala discuss ho gaya. Sumit wanted to add something.
yeah.
Let's move to
I
the
I want
second
to add
topic.
something.
Yeah, Sumit, please go on.
Yeah, so regarding the screens, right? So I heard you mentioned you're using T2 micro, right? So T2 micro at the end of the day is one CPU instance, right? And
Yeah,
with I think half a GB RAM or 1 GB RAM maximum.
yeah.
So when you are running six different screens and running six different programs parallelly, that's not gonna help you scale. I'll tell you why. Because Python, if you're running a Python code, that uses a concept called GIL, Global Interpreter Lock, right? So if one program is using one CPU, others will be waiting for it, right? Until unless that GIL lock is released, then others will grab it and then run their CPU intensive task. So that's where I think it can cause a problem in future, because the instance is like one CPU, 1 GB RAM. So I mean, different ways of, if you want to save cost, you can just go and sign up on GCP. They will give you $300 of credit and use a better, bigger instance. I think that would be enough for 1 year of execution. And maybe you can create a different account with a different email ID, again get the credits. So you can always do that. But this is T2 micro is not suggestible, and with screens that to being with one CPU of instance.
Okay. Yeah, the reason why I don't use WebSocket is that because all the scripts are working individually. So let's say if there is one error, I just don't want it to impact other scripts. So therefore, I have to then start WebSocket in each of the scripts, which is again not useful. And I'm not using the WebSocket because I mean, it doesn't add any value to me because all the orders are in the system. I just need the LTP when I'm entering or exit.
Yeah, okay. I mean, some of these things come with design choices and the challenges. Robust scalable बनाने के लिए थोड़ा तो घिसना पड़ता है, right? For a lack of better word. Let's move on to the
Yeah.
next speaker.
Achha.
Indian Rajat, Rajat AG.
Yes, sir. Sorry, guys. I believe you are on the next level. Pardon me for my ignorance. I am very
अरे नहीं
new
नहीं
to
ऐसे मत
this.
बोलो. Nobody is at above or below level. Everybody started from zero. I started from -10. So
Yeah.
don't say that way. Please feel free.
So I have been developing Algo from the past 6 months, but the thing is, I started on TradingView because PineScript clicked me, and Mr. Vivek in this forum is actually the reason. I saw his one of the webinar, and finally started coding on it, and it clicked. So I may from my side, the Algo is working fine, whatever results it is giving, and I tried through some free APIs, and it is putting orders. But I just wanted to know that is it the correct way, or I need to migrate to something, because I tried, but I am for certain somehow not comfortable with Python, although it is simple. But is can PineScript take us to some level, or I need to
So
stop here?
Rajat,
Yeah.
so Rajat, let me tell you, one of the longest running my algo dynamic, if you ever go to my profile or website, is coded on TradingView, runs through PineScript, and it's super stable. TradingView has, think about what kind of execution errors you might receive. And it's only the signal generation part that takes place on the TradingView. So you might have, stayed away from Python for, I don't know how you're coding your execution, because TradingView say, I think some of the new brokers, Dhan is coming up with the TradingView integration in which you can code up something on TradingView and then execute directly on Dhan. Is that how you are running it, Rajat?
I am trying next level bot. It is available.
Acha, हाँ,
It
okay,
takes
that's
it.
another
Yeah.
website. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
So
yeah, so these are third party websites. Now you can, so you have your point of failure in this case will be this infrastructure which is outside the PineScript or outside the TradingView infrastructure, because
yeah.
TradingView is only generating the signal. It's your execution which may fail, right? So
Yeah.
to answer your question, as long as I mean, your bottleneck is this infrastructure through which you are executing and not the signal generation part. So that should answer your question whether you should continue with TradingView or not. You're anyways not using them for execution. And I know Dhan is coming up with this integration, so that might be an exciting opportunity to watch for people who trade directly uh, through TradingView.
Now the problem that I'm facing is my because TradingView doesn't have a lot of data of options and option chain,
Right, वो
etc.
नहीं कर सकते. Yeah. TradingView doesn't have all of that. Yeah.
So, but somehow there is a means through the third party API. If I code the particular option data, send it to the third party API, it is placing orders that I can see. The only thing is I don't know what price it is placing, because that chart is not there on TradingView.
Yeah,
So
see, at the end of the day, whatever you're trying to do, it seems you have a few moving parts.
yeah,
The most robust solution will be to get it all in a single package in a Python or whatever the execution, Java, C++, whatever you use, and then you will be able to see whatever. Otherwise, you'll always be bounded by the facilities and capabilities that a third party will give you, right?
Okay.
Uh, so with that,
Otherwise,
I think
otherwise the idea, yeah, just I'll continue, complete my question. So otherwise, after going through all this, what my idea was, let my code generate the signal, when to buy, when to sell, and finally it should go into some Python ka chota sa execution engine, where it finds the correct price or of that option which has been chosen by my code, and execute it on the API. Will
right,
it be the correct method?
yeah, of course,
Yes.
no, nothing wrong with that. I mean, ये तो see, अगर आप ऐसे सोच के देखो, that intermediate code you are building is just another set of execution logic. So absolutely realistic way of doing it.
So somebody knowledgeable in this, or somebody who's has experience in such kind of I call it Python, what you call a gateway kind of thing, from where the execution finally pass and go to the API. If somebody has some kind
Yeah,
of experience, then throw some light on it. Yeah, please.
so I'm not sure if who provides the service. Yash, do you want to take this up? I know Yash बहुत कुछ code करता रहता है.
अरे तो चीज़ ये है कि एक इसके लिए बेस्ट आई एम रिकमेंडिंग यू द यूट्यूब चैनल. सो एल्गो ट्रेडर है, मतलब F200306 इज आई मीन दिस हैंडल, ट्विटर हैंडल. मतलब मैं क्या बोलूँगा, ही इज़ मच मोर नॉलेजेबल एंड
Yeah.
उनकी वीडियो से यू कैन डेफिनेटली लर्न. मतलब ये जो अप्रोच जस्ट यू सेड, मतलब ये इवन आई लर्नड थ्रू दिस इन, मतलब दिस ईयर ओनली. मतलब इनका जो यूट्यूब पे है, यू कैन लर्न फ्रॉम दैट. मतलब दैट्स इट.
Awesome.
And Ravinder sir, Rajinder sir also said, was saying something regarding कि मतलब what is the next step है ना, कि मतलब एग्जीक्यूशन में और कैसे डेवलप कर सकते हैं. तो उनके लिए भी ये एक रिस्पॉन्स है कि मतलब जस्ट ट्राई लर्निंग थ्रू दैट एल्गो ट्रेडर यूट्यूब चैनल.
Can you please repeat the Twitter ID or the YouTube channel? What you said?
So that is F200306 एल्गो
फोन
ट्रेडर
नंबर
ही.
जैसा लगता है वो.
हाँ हाँ हाँ, एग्जैक्टली.
नहीं तो
तो मेरे को तो देखते देखते आ
रजत,
गए. हाँ,
if you Google on YouTube जाके ना Algo Trader
एस
Zerodha or
गुप्ता.
something of that sort, you'll see
Okay, okay.
a channel which will come up. Otherwise, DM Yash or me. We both would know which channel is it. We'll be happy to share it with anybody else as well who wants to learn from that. Okay, so I know we've been running this for a while. I would limit. We'll end it in next 30 minutes, and to do so, we have a few people requesting. So we'll try to limit one question. It's not like I'm answering. We just open the space कि यार आज बहुत execution errors आए थे. So good topic to discuss execution. So I'll come move on to the next speaker, and then we'll try to quickly clear the queue and end this. So the next speaker should be top algo traders community.
Hey, hi.
Hey,
Am I audible?
yes.
Okay. I think no. I just wanted to continue or ask or rephrase one question. Right? One somebody spoke and then that person dropped off, which was I think for Algo Temple. We couldn't rephrase that, so I thought I'll just talk about. I'll just ask that again. This was about the way how Algo Temple mentioned he manages his infra, which is for every strategy, it's running on a different instance, different code, and it triggers or it fires a buy or sell whatever orders to a central system, and all his strategies fire their orders to a central system, and then that central system takes care of pushing the orders to the broker. Right. So he was asking how has been the latency, because now you have one more layer introduced in between. So how in Algo Temple's experience, how has it been versus can individual strategies fire their own orders, manage the end-to-end life cycle? Right. So this was what he was trying to ask. So if you could tell, that would be great. And on similar lines, my question, second question, first was this centralized versus decentralized. My another question is now each strategy. Am I audible?
Yes. Continue.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, so second, my question is, I don't know if any of you have done this. You have a strategy, and that strategy uses a WebSocket, right? Similarly, you're running some 5, 6 strategies. Each strategy has its own connection to a WebSocket. Versus, can all these strategies connect to a central WebSocket that you write in another place and feed off of that WebSocket? And in that central place, now what you could do is to build redundancy, use 3, 4 brokers. If one broker fails, go to another broker. So ऐसे किसी ने किया है क्या? I don't know if my question was too long and you guys lost me in between. I can
Algo
re
test, please. Yeah, let's try with the first one, right? Algo test, if you want to take that, or Lohit. I don't know if Algo test is speaking. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. So you spoke about the latency, right? Yeah, I did. I did find the latency was higher. Uh, Latency was higher when I was using Python. Then my partner, who is a technical wizard, suggested to move to .NET, which was much faster than what we had seen from Python. So in that way, it was that was one way we have fine tuned this architecture.
got it. Uh, okay. Anyways, I think second question, which is mine, is not just for Algo Temple, but anybody here. Have you guys tried to connect to multiple WebSockets at once, right, as a redundancy? Like run that in parallel if a tick or if a WebSocket stops responding. I know there are auto reconnects everywhere, but you lose that couple of seconds, right? Uh,
Multiple web sockets for the same account.
no,
No.
okay, I'll give you an example, right? So now let's say you're trading in Zerodha, right? So what do? You connect to Zerodha's WebSocket, right? And convert those ticks to let's say candles. So now what happens? Zerodha, now I've not seen that in the last 1 month, but prior to that, every now and then, as in every 10 days, 15 days, you lose WebSocket for a couple of seconds, right? And then it auto reconnects because of whatever they've done, but you lose that. So in such situations, can you connect now, let's say, to Finvacia, right? As a backup, it is running, and now you take the ticks from Finvacia, or you take the candles or data from Finvacia and continue with your algorithm.
So
Did you
one thing
understand,
you
or
can
was
do
I
is,
confused?
I get it. So one thing you can do is, so what you're trying, if I get it correctly, you're trying to ensure your data is consistently streaming. Because if your
Correct.
one data source goes off, so
Yes.
one way to think about is ki yaar, think of how I try to make this parallel logic, how reverse merge into a C. So you can subscribe to multiple sources of data, and then at
Hmm.
your end you can create a consolidator,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
then use that consolidator to feed data into your execution. So that way
Correct.
your reliability is very good. uh, you don't have to worry about उसमें अब पीछे source में you can add 1, 10, 20, whatever sources, as long as your consolidator is able to manage. So your pain
Yes.
point kind of changes. That's what
Correct. Correct.
I'd say.
Correct.
All right,
Correct. So,
great,
and
man.
yeah, sorry, last one, right?
Sure, please.
To answer your, I mean, like to the problem that we had today, Zerodha. So if things go wrong, terribly wrong, and we see, I know it's one off, but probably another way is writing a logic where, like have multiple brokers on standby. If one goes down, you do at least save your ask for the day kind of a trade and place buy orders right in another broker. Maybe build that kind of a redundancy into the system.
But you see, that kind of thing is not very capital efficient unless you are trading same amount of capital across multiple. So for an individual client and individual house, it's not that difficult. But when you try to scale it multi-account, multi-client setup, this is not. I mean, it's not feasible. So it depends who you are, what you're trying to do. in one case,
Right.
I will say it's definitely feasible. If I mean, if my own accounts are at three places, and I know like one of the order was skipped in one of the accounts, I can easily
Hmm.
go and punch it in the other one,
Correct.
right? But in a more systematic or institutional level, might be different.
Right.
Uh,
No, especially if it's a if you're doing a long only system, placing a short would need a lot of margin. But if you're short system, it's about saving the as trade, which is at least have buy orders fired in another broker.
yeah, maybe.
Cool.
Uh,
Sorry, I took a
thanks,
lot of.
thanks. No, thank you. Kapil, I think I had you first. Kapil, you want to speak?
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, Kapil.
So I had two very small questions. One is I've struggled placing six orders in 1 second. So let's say I have a cell system, a strangle. So the it will have like SL orders. So if I have to shift my positions, first it has to cut the SL orders, then it has to buy those sell orders, and then it has to place another two sell orders. So I want to do it within 1 second. But the problem comes that sometimes Zerodha cancels those orders and many other things can come. So what my system does it puts all those orders in a file, and then through the order ID it keeps checking the status of that order. So in between the latency comes around 6 to 7 seconds. So in 6 to 7 seconds, I am able to shift my two positions. So how do you guys deal with this? Like, how do you make a system in which all the orders get placed in a single second without, a single order getting failed? And the second question is, I wanted to build a small GUI, a small web app so that I can track my PNL. Through a single click, I can, place multiple orders and do like what the big broking houses do. So how do I get started with that? These are my two questions.
Okay, so I'll take your second question first because it's an easy one. So if let me know if I understand correctly, you are doing all this trading and you want a front end for it कि यार आज मेरा order कहाँ गया क्या PNL बना whatever you want to do, right?
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
if you are a Python coder, have you thought about using Streamlit?
No, I haven't heard about it. I code
So
on Python, but yeah.
so look up Streamlit, and I think there is another package called Book. To recall, but Streamlit is one service, such service, which will allow you to build dashboards in Python, and then you will be able to
Okay.
connect your data sources to it, and it will build all the flowcharts or whatever you want to build on that. Streamlit is one example. I'm sure there are a few more of those. So if you Google Python dashboards, such kind of service or Streamlit competitors, you'll see a few
Okay.
services on that as well, right? So that is the easy one. For your Yash, you want to take the other one, yeah?
Flask. What was the next question? Please pardon.
So the question was that how do you place six orders in 1 second? So let's say you have a strangle and you want to get it closer. So first you have to close the SL orders, then you have to buy the sell orders, then you have to place another two sell orders. So my system has a latency of 6 to 8 seconds in which all these orders get processed. But in that time, a lot can happen in the market. I want that everything goes through very smoothly, like it checks that the order is correctly cancelled, the next order is correctly filled, etc., within a second, so that my execution doesn't suffer. So how do you guys handle it? That was my
Yeah.
first question.
A right solution is to have a proper execution engine in place. Okay, मतलब कुछ
Okay.
shortcuts हो सकते हैं, but एक proper execution in place हो, and that is मतलब still again I'm recommending कि algo trader का YouTube channel, मतलब it might be time consuming, but if you really want to मतलब ये सब problem solve करनी है ना, तो that is the best solution. And I'm adding the comment as well, okay, मतलब in this space के comment section में, okay, so
Okay.
that will be helpful to you guys. Mhm.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kapil. So we also have Pavan on the panel. Pavan has, I know he executes a lot of his own stuff, so I'm sure he'll be able to bring his insights. Pavan, do you want to share any thoughts upfront, and then we'll go back to questions?
Man, I'm sorry. I actually had a question. Okay, so I just joined. So sorry
Who can
if
answer
someone
the
asked that
question, Pavan?
already. Yeah, yeah, yeah. See, I saw this and I already discussed this once, but you must have seen Zerodha is now offering these iceberg orders. Okay, and I was lazy enough to check much, but when I was just go browsing through their website, I saw that they also open it through API. I can be wrong there as well, but I just wanted to ask. I know that there are some costs involved in there using those orders, but I mean, at first look, it looked like, all these places when we are, everyone is doing their own slicing and everything. So instead of that, did anyone shift their code to using that Iceberg API? Is it even available? Is anyone using it? And did you see, like, costs? I don't think it's too significant for anybody moving size, but I think it brings in more easy, easy way to slice your orders and everything, not worry about it. And why I'm asking is that because, like he mentioned, especially for long only and exits like that, like naked selling, if you can slice and close those orders, I think the order management will also get a bit simpler because you can track like whether that whole order got filled or half got partially filled or whatever happened. So anyone tried that? Anyone doing? Because I haven't found anyone doing that. I'm interested to know.
So, Pavan, I mean, we don't use it. Whatever iceberg type of setup we have coded up in our infrastructure itself. So, I'm sure you would know, and anybody can look up the literature on iceberg orders. The idea behind that is it's usually used in high frequency trading. And the idea is
Yeah.
if you have to trade, like, say, 100,000 lots, 1 lakh lots, whatever the size is, you don't want the
Hmm.
market to know ki, yaar, you have that much size because they will start picking on you. The high
Yeah.
frequency trading will start picking on you, right? So you kind of, this concept called lit orders and dark orders. So you only show a small portion of your size at a time, and once that gets filled, then only you place more. So there are several trade-offs for it. Like, that one trade-off is there's a time and price priority queue in the order book. So if the orders which come later get a lower priority at a given price, right? So that's the trade-off. But if you are a big size and like a big hedge fund who's moving $100 million, or let's say in Indian market 100 crores within a day, they might not be very sensitive to that. But so that's the institutional side, and I know institutions set up huge like infrastructure to manage iceberg orders. Not only iceberg orders, they have the models to set up the execution orders itself, right? So it's not simple because everybody know how iceberg works. Now, the second part of this is then how does, on a retail segment, how does it help us? So apni strategies are not, we are not moving that size that when we care about somebody picking us off, right? So it's
Yeah.
more about getting the right sort of fills, and waiting at one at a time. So long story short, we have coded up some of those features within our algos wherever needed, rather than it's more of a use case basis rather than using it blanketly. But I'm sure, I think the Zerodha's USP is that you can use that through a manual punching, and then if anybody who has used this on a API, feel free to. There's many hands raised.
Yeah, because
Let
I
me see.
think most of us have our own slicing, chase and fills, and that's what I'm using as well. But I'm just curious, if there is, see,
Huh,
the
so
code is only running until it fails. So I'll sleep well if I'm using something that is ready to use.
Huh?
Yeah,
But
that's the thing.
Pavan, there's also that trade-off, right? When we are coding our own chases and all, right? We can
Yeah,
um, tailor it to what our algo needs. Whereas Zerodha might be offering a canned product, then they will slice it in, let's
yeah,
say, 10 lots, and then only show one at a time, and then only go up. Whereas you and I, if you know the market is running away from us, we can try to aggress the market. Whereas I don't think in an iceberg order they will aggress it. They will only fill it passively all through the day, or wherever, how long it takes, until there must be an expiry time on the iceberg order. Until this expires, then they will aggress the market. So it's that trade-off, I guess. What we can build with ourselves and
makes
what we
sense,
can.
man. Makes sense. first, the thing you mentioned, like, the level of customization we have on a strategy level, that also is, provides us some comfort and edge, because not every strategy is so time sensitive and there are places where you cannot delay it. So yeah, it makes sense.
So regarding iceberg, actually, I did a test execution on that. What I noticed is that the delays, as in means as per clear their documentation says is that unless and until the first order gets filled, the second order doesn't get released to the exchange only. So that means that creates a lag. That's why I'm not using it. But I did just test executions. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the feature of the iceberg order. Like if you
Yeah,
read
that's
up the
the feature of
literature,
iceberg order. But in our case, what we can do is we can parallelly hit our entire quantity at one go as well, right? That will
yeah,
not happen through iceberg.
yeah. That's a market order, or like when we are
No,
building our
no,
own
no,
infra,
no.
we can manage.
If you have say 10,000 quantity want to be filled, okay, you can slice it into a 10 order, then you can hit 10 orders in a parallel execution, right?
Yes.
Yeah, if you have your own execution. But if you hit that same order through the iceberg and split it into 10, it will go one by one, not parallelly.
Yep, makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'll just speak out the order in which we'll go next. So Lohit, Amir, and Nitin, and then once we are done with these, we'll probably get more speakers.
Okay, can I go ahead? Am I audible?
Yes, please.
Okay. I'm into algo trading since last 2 years. I started with simple Python program. Now it's kind of evolved as a platform which supports multiple brokers, multiple users, and multiple strategies. So here again, being built as a kind of a monolith, now challenges with scaling, right? So now kind of migrating this into this event-based architecture where we can act upon based on the event, implemented Kafka as well on that. So first question on this is anybody, how do you handle if there are multiple accounts, right? For example, based on the order status, you want to do something. Do we want to, do you suggest that we implement the website kits for multiple accounts running so that they continuously catch and raise an event, then act upon it? So again, for example, okay, 1 or 2 accounts, okay, but if it's 10 accounts and then, yeah, across the brokers, the load on the system will be too much, right? That's first question. The second thing, anybody would like to share your thoughts on uh, running the back test and the live in the same code with a simple switch. So most of the time we build a back test engine a separate one and an execution engine a separate one. Any thoughts on that? Any inputs on that direction?
So I'll take your second question again because in my opinion it's the simpler one. So हमने तो we have kept it separately. Our backtesting engine and live execution engine are different. Not because um, not because it's easier, but just because of the way things are. Like until unless I'm backtesting on tick data, which I'm not. Like I'm doing high frequency trading. There is this sort of candle formation that you can make. In live data, and in live data we don't use candles. We use LTPs, and then in backtest we use 1 minute candles, right? So just keep it, just going by that logic, it just makes sense for us. But then uh, people do try and aspire to have the same infrastructure, but I personally and our team has found it to be um, a daunting task. Try to synergize it rather than we take enough steps in our backtesting by using enough cost assumptions, slippages, and whatnot, so that we can account for live order or live market issues. But we have not aimed at that. So I'm happy to have anybody else. I'm going to add all the pending speakers if I can, and then everybody can, if anybody else can wishes to add to that, I'm more than happy to listen to them.
Even currently my implementation is that way, that backtest engine and execution engine are separate.
Anybody else who thinks otherwise or wants to share on this?
No,
I
I
can
Yes,
only
think
yes.
add
I
my
have
experiences, guys.
spent a lot of time trying to achieve that perfect place, where I can just update a couple of flags and I can switch between live execution and backtest, and I wasted nights on that. It just doesn't came off right for me. I tried and I eventually
Hmm.
gave up because keeping them separate gives you a lot of freedom to play around with things, first of all, without having any fear of, messing up with the execution thing. And you won't want that in on any day. And basically, especially when we are backtesting, there are many things you want to check on the go. So eventually, I agreed on that with myself. Ki, nahi, it's not going to happen. And I have decided to separate everything. Since then, it's much better. So I don't suggest to do that. If you can achieve it in a very good way, then there's nothing better. But yeah, I won't do it.
Sure, that helps. I was thinking a lot on that direction. I think not worth venturing in that way.
So may
Thanks,
I go
Lohit.
ahead? Am
Yes,
I audible?
Amir. Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yeah, I have a question related to WebSocket streaming. Whenever we start web streaming for 100 to or 200 stocks, we get everything fine, like just printing the message. But whenever we do any operations like storing them, writing them to a file or database, it's just start lagging. Means it's everything being done at the same time, so it starts lagging. Any solution for that? And I just also want to know that what method is right for storing the ticks for forming the candle.
Uh, uh, so the first is, I mean, use database. Okay. The other is limit the number of scripts. So suppose say you are using, I mean, subscribing 200 scripts as of now, right? So instead of subscribing 200, matlab, use only the ones that you require and I mean at that moment or matlab ki throughout the day, जो भी एक, just limit those.
Okay, what I have checked is whenever we are doing it with 10 or 50 stocks, still that lags come because everything is being done at the same time. Like it is in Python, and Python is known for this slowness. So, is there any solution for that? Means, what is the right approach? Storing them to our database and just because that also starts lagging.
When you are saying lagging, what do you mean? मतलब कितना
Yeah,
lag आता है आपके पास? मतलब
means
जो
ये स्टार्ट होता है कि 1-2 सेकंड से और फिर वो एज द डे प्रोग्रेस इट कीप्स इंक्रीजिंग द लैग.
so most
Amir, what
probably
what
number
database
of
are you
scripts
using?
की वजह से.
आई एम
What
यूजिंग
database are you
MongoDB.
using? Mango. So, some of these, I mean, I don't know if that's a data. So you would know it, right? Jitna time you interact with database, as many times, utna time uska, that's your latency. And as the size of your data will grow, your data fetch and data push will also slow. So you might want to separate out it into another process ki you are putting into a table in a MongoDB, which is only a fresh table, and then another parallel process is kind of consolidating that. So that way, your response time from your data feed to your Mongo will be faster, and then another parallel process can do the consolidation. I'm not sure if it will survive or suffice your situation, because it means you are trying to stream a lot of instruments, and like Yash said, one way is to reduce the instruments in one call and one push, do the parallel processing, and dusra is what I'm trying to say ki MongoDB mein implement ki the push and pull are from a lighter size or smaller size table, and then another consolidator works it and writes it into a more master table. That might help you. But it's a lot of this is a trial and error, yeah.
Okay. So I have one more question. So
One small
is
thing
it
I want to
possible
add,
like
just look into Redis time series. So when I was doing stocks, right, I was also pulling a lot of stuff, and that time this was an issue, but it was like initial stages. So I came across this Redis time series. If you're running on a Linux environment, you can parallelly run a small server. It's not very heavy on resources or anything. All you need to do is like dump your final ticks there and pick it up from there. It's very easily it's made for that. Just Google Redis time series and play around. I think you'll find some solution there. It's very fast though.
Yeah, Yeah, even we
Oh,
use Redis. So, that I forgot. I thought, Pavan, it's funny. When I was speaking, I thought about mentioning Redis and then I got into that answer and completely stopped. Sorry. But, anyways, thanks, Pavan. Amir, one more question, man. And please, we'll have to go to the other speakers. But just one more speaker and then we can go to the next.
okay. So I had one more question. So if we are running a trading system and we want to scale it with means we want to execute the same system with other clients also. So is there any thing like we are doing a manual trading on one account and parallelly we can copy the same trades in 10 different account also? So
So,
how
yeah,
do you?
हम तो ये करते नहीं है, but I know there are services available. Copy trading के लिए a lot of people are doing it. Um, I am not the best person to answer. I'm not sure if Yash or Pavan wishes to answer this.
I'm sorry, no idea on that as well.
Yeah, sir, I have one question. Can I ask?
Sudeep, please wait for your turn. Yeah, there's Nitin is waiting for a really long time. So Amir will from Amir will speak to Nitin. Nitin, right?
Yeah,
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 Nitin,
hi.
please.
So I've been doing discretionary trading for a while, and now I'm shifting to algorithmic trading. Like I've been, learning. Like I've been using Python since last 7, 8 years. I'm an engineer myself, so I was wondering I can use Python. But while judging whether I should go with Python or not, I was just wondering, considering we have a lot of slippages, and also making the system more scalable, making it more future proof. Would C++ would be a better choice than Python? Also, considering the caveat that Python has got some of the world's best libraries, pandas, so forth and so on. This is just one question. Second question, a very small one. From where do you buy last 10 years data, like 1 second timestamp? I don't want 1 minute, but 1 second timestamp for building strategies. Yeah, that's it.
So yeah, I'll again take your second answer question first. Easier one. They have, I think, 1 second time snapshots, true data and all will provide. GDFL and true data, I think both of them provide tick data. They call it tick data, even though it's 1 second snapshot data. Um, and your first question was around. Sorry, could you repeat that? I lost that.
C++ over Python, like execution, because we have a lot of slippages. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, pehli baat to, a few days ago, a couple of weeks ago, we did a spaces in which we discussed slippages. I'll see if I can repeat that. Slippages is not a function of the
Okay.
language you're using. It's not only the function of the language. It's a function of a lot of things, right? So the assumption that misassumption a lot of people make is, कि यार, if I do reduce the latency of my algo, then my slippage will reduce. But that's not how markets work. You are thinking in a very deterministic way कि यार, by beating the next trader by half a second, millisecond, 20 millisecond, 10 millisecond, I'm going to do well. It may be true in a high frequency trading space, definitely. But in the kind of environment in which we are anyways going through broker APIs and there's a bunch of latency there itself, it's not the right way, or it's not the only way where the slippages could be improved or reduced, right? We have a decent infrastructure and it's all coded in Python. So C++ is definitely faster. It is difficult to build, but it's definitely faster. But if your only agenda is to see whether it will reduce slippage, then I think you're overkilling it. Like, slippage is a function of what's your order, holding period of your trade. Let's say if it's 3 hours, then the first analysis that I will do if I was in your position is see if I delay my entry by 5 minutes, completely 5 minutes, will my system completely come crashing down? Because if it doesn't come crashing down, then I don't care about that 5 minute bandwidth, right? That I have that 5 minutes to execute my order, and I can think about scaling it up as well within those 5 minutes. So it's C++ is definitely faster. We definitely use Python for all our execution because our strategies are not that latency sensitive. I don't think in the current, at least on the FinTwit space, there are people, or in publicly speaking, who would have a very latency sensitive strategy. So it may not help. So you should kind of expand on some of these items. That's what I would say.
Yeah, so basically, like, your point is absolutely correct. Like, considering that if you have so much time, let's say 5 minutes, then probably any language would suffice. But let's say you are actually at the 9:15th time, just 1 minute candle, first minute candle, and you're probably kind of following, let's say, for example, reverse mean strategy. Okay, you would want to catch on that gap down or gap up of any stock, and that is only for a very few second, and there are like huge number of orders, in the system generally. So of course, I mean, at the broker level, you cannot avoid that latency, but at least from your side, probably, that's what I was actually aiming at, and not in general, trading strategies.
So you
Yeah, that
can,
was the
I
point. But
mean,
I got your point. Like, yeah.
yeah, if your strategy is that sensitive, so I agree. If you're sensitive to that first tick of the market open, then of course you
Mhm.
would want to be the first one, and then आप broker API के through तो क्यों in trade कर रहे हो? You should try and get a colo and then get from that side, right? If somebody's strategy is that sensitive, which, like I said, I don't think a lot of traders using that. So if in the absence of such a strategy, in the absence of such a need, uh, Python should do most of the job.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah.
guys, I'm
uh,
actually getting tired of speaking, so I'll just not
yeah.
add any more new speakers. There are three speakers in line. I'm just going to add them, and Joe or on the panel will let them speak. So, Code Marvel, you're first, and then Nikhil Kharadkar. If I'm sorry if I mispronounced it, you are next, and then I'm going to add three more speakers, and that's it. Code, please go.
Hey, thanks, Ankit. I, as many people said, I also recently started that Algo side. So I am coming from an IT background. I gone through that many of your tweets and your past experience, including Algo Temple and Algo Trader and all these people, those who are doing an Algo. So just want to share my experience, and also I have a couple of things that we I need to validate with the experienced folks. So since I am a retailer and I'm focusing only on that individual account, and so far I just thank Yash also. So far I met only one person in Yash in person. I got some input when he came to Bangalore. So my focus was since I came from an IT background, I have a strong belief that until unless we have a framework, we cannot develop anything on top of it. That's kind of a mindset. So there is a no focus on that. How should my building looks like, bedroom or kitchen, rather than that creating a base framework. That's a mindset. The second one, I just started collecting all your the limitations. So like an Ankit or Algo Temple and Logical Trader. If you go through their timeline, their initial days, they would have asked a lot of basic question and challenges what they were facing. So I just listed out all these limitations. For example, what will happen? My latency is increased, and what will happen? My market order or stop loss order was not executed. What will happen if my order getting placed and my algo got crashed? And is it my algo is capable to start that place where it was left? Okay, because most of the time that algo have an logic against how to trial the stop loss. So how come that algo knows there is an order has been already placed over there, and now my job is to just monitor the trailing stop loss. So both my broker position and my algo has to sync. So likewise, I listed out all these limitations first and try to create a strategy not to overcome that limitation, instead to live with that limitations instead of focusing on how to overcome that latency. So look at that strategy first, create a system in the stable way. So like for example, I am running that system after discussed with Yash and all, I'm running in 1 month. I'm not getting in any single problem so far. The same way, like somebody said, right? I'm running it in a screen in a Linux AWS, and all the day it's running, keeping, and only now focusing only on the strategy part. So likewise, the limitation, whatever I explained, right, the latency part, or my algo get crashed, and my broker system will get crashed, and my local system or a cloud system also will get stopped. So these kind of limitations, currently I focused it and I resolved it. So my algo is stable, even if that algo get crashed or in a local system or in cloud, immediately I will get a notification so that either I can decide what has to be done or my algo itself is capable to connect on another broker to take a counter order. So these kind of
Hello, is it me, or is can we
I,
hear each
I
other?
want to live with that system.
Code Marvel, I think we are losing your sound. Yeah.
Yeah, are
Um,
you able to hear me?
yeah. Now again we can.
Oh, sorry. So suddenly that screen got off. So I don't know where I left. So I just listed out all the limitation, right? So my current focus is on creating a system to accommodate that limitations. Okay, so I don't want to overcome that limitation. I'm not going to achieve with that, as Ankit said, right? I don't want to beat another 5 second customer to create my edge over there. Instead, I'm okay with an 1 minute candle or 5 minute candle, even 10 seconds delay. That's an acceptable. Okay, but I am expecting that my broker system anytime will get fail or my algo will get fail. But only the focus area is when I restart my algo, it has to bring the same state where it was left. Okay, the same way, if my broker system is not available, my algo should be capable to handle that situation. So these are that focus area. Okay, so likewise, is there any other place as a beginner that we need to focus? The limitation part based on your experience.
No, so right. I think what you have summarized is that you have seen a lot of what do you call it, tweets and people who struggled through some errors. I agree. When we started out on Twitter, there were definitely challenges by us, and then you are accepting that this is the way it works, and there are some limitations, and building accordingly. I mean, that sounds like a perfect approach. Not sure what more can I add on that.
Thank you. But
Yeah.
if any other general in a real time scenario, since you are executing that system for a multiple strategy, and yeah, I forgot to mention, even I am also running in a one single entry. All even though I don't have any plan to run a multiple strategy, but system is capable to run that multiple strategy yeah, within the separate thread. Even something goes wrong with the one thread, other thread will keep running. So and also it's capable to handle that one single web socket, which will pass it to all these system. But anyway, I'm not using a web socket, but the system is capable. So, but I'm focusing on that only historical data, even though it's a some delay because that's a plan. So, any other limitation in your day-to-day algo that you are facing, so that maybe I could not come across those things that would.
Um, I don't know. I mean, this is there are so many edge cases that we still keep discovering as we integrate more brokers. I'm not sure if Vivek Bhai is here because he's the one who's done with a lot of work on multi-account brokers. Prashant is here as well. Prashant earlier was not able to speak. I'm just going to invite him again. But long story short, I don't think there is a very prescribed rule book that I can tell you कि यार देखे this is the errors or limitations you should try and sidestep. Some of these are common situation. Like the one thing that happened today was very very new to us as well. So I think it just builds with time. That would be my answer to that.
Mm.
All right, can we move
Yeah,
to the
so
next
Ankit
speaker?
sir, can I? Yeah, Ankit
Yeah,
sir, can I
Sudeep.
ask you a question?
All right,
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
let's just set the order for once and for all. So we'll go Sudeep, Avinash, Vivek, and Nikhil. In that order, we'll go, and then that's it. We'll like to call it a night.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So, so I am just starting my own trading system. Okay, I want to design my own trading system. So I am the beginner. Okay, so I am doing that in Python. Okay, but Python has one nice feature, that is pandas data frame. Right now, with the discussion, I found that okay, if we use C# or .NET, the program can be much more faster. Okay, so if we go for C#, then do we have such kind of data frame that hold the tabular data?
Well, no, not really. So, like pandas is like a whole package written in C++. I mean, Python itself is written in C++. But you can recreate everything and anything that you want. Like the the upside of Python is that all of this is ready-made. You start
Right.
learning it, you don't even have to think about it, right? Whereas in C++, when we code, it's like very, very elemental, very, very ground level or very, very low level, as we call it. So you can build anything and everything that you want, and not only like Python, but you have to gauge whether you want to go down that route or not. When we think about Python being an open source language, a lot of packages have been developed in an open source fashion. A lot of people with a lot of years of experience with latency, with optimizations, have built those things. So will you be able to do that? And then, do you really need to do that? So these are the two questions I would think about before I will set up myself for that venture. A, do I need to do that? And B, am I capable enough to do that better than somebody who's run and maintained these data frames and created these packages? If that's the only concern, right? The data
Okay.
framing, tabular format
Right.
is the concern.
Okay. And sir, if we go for C#, then should we use .NET Core and we should deploy that in Nginx in EC2 environment?
Yeah, I have
Uh,
not used Nginx and such stuff in a really, I mean, ever or whatever. I'm not the best person. I'm not sure if anybody else has.
Okay, okay, no problem. So another question is, can we access option chain data in real time, and which broker provides that through API?
Every broker provides all the data, right? Option chain is what just fancy word for a population of all the options that are out there in the market. So every broker will provide that. So, uh,
Okay.
Sudeep, thanks. Let's go to the next speaker.
Sir,
Who did
sir,
we have?
I have last question, one small question, last question. So if I need any help, so any commercial institute that we have, so that I can take the help, so for designing my algo. I mean, if you can give me some contact point.
I know Vishal Mehta runs such a service. I'm not sure Vivek Gadodia I used to run it. I'm not very privy of a few of others. Um, I don't know if anybody else knows it. Yash, Pranav. Hey, Pranav. I don't know. So I'm sorry. I mean, apart from these two, I don't know anybody else. Uh, but on Twitter, you might find people willing to provide coding as a service.
I think
Okay,
you'd be
okay.
better off working with an individual who has been beating around the bush with
To
the
answer,
same things
just
that
one
you're trying to do. It'll save
question
a lot
on.
of time.
Hello,
Pranav, sorry, your voice was breaking up,
hello. Is
and I
this
think
my fault
Pavan
again?
was started speaking. So maybe Pavan, can you continue?
Yeah, I was
Uh,
saying like he's better off trying to find somebody who has done something similar to what he's trying. That'll save time rather than spending, months at an institute and then doing it from scratch because there's rarely any stuff that you're trying to do which somebody hasn't tried. So better, tweet and try to find around someone, an individual be of more help rather than, you going through the whole learning curve by yourself.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Ankit, I'm also here, like Nitish here. So uh, I saw
Yeah,
you
so
read
Nitish,
the list.
sorry,
Yeah.
Nitish, I was just trying to add. So on Pavan's point, right? Yash did post under this Spaces tweet the channel from Algo Trader. So anybody who wants to learn, that's a good place to start for sure. So that will. And sorry, Nitish, sorry to cut you off. Please continue.
No, no, no. I mean, in your order of speakers, I mean, you ended with Nikhil. So I just wanted to remind you that I also wanted to say,
Okay, you can
or
you can
ask a couple of
go.
questions.
That's okay. I think I said Avinash and Vivek, and then you can ask Nitish if that's okay.
Okay,
Yep, yep.
so should I go now or wait for Nitish to
Yeah,
complete?
Avinash. No, Avinash, why don't you start? Let's go. I think that's
Okay,
what I
mine
like.
is yeah, mine is more around execution. So I just wanted to concentrate more on execution these days. So apart from industry experience and past market experiences, what is the best way to get to know how the execution engines work, or like the entire order flow that happens? Like in the beginning of the spaces, there were some discussions on how different order statuses happen and different phases through which the order goes to an exchange. So, what is the best source to get hold of it? Like some videos on YouTube or some literature, if there is any pointers to that.
Yeah, yes, you will find literature if you dig it up, but I don't have something. By the way, there is a book. If you go to my profile or if you search my handle on Medium, I wrote an article called Market Microstructure 101, 101, right? And there's a reference in that article, which is from this book called Trading and Exchanges. It's by Larry Harris. It's one of the classic book that I would say anybody who's trying to build an execution infrastructure should read. Again, I'll repeat, it's Trading and Exchanges by Larry Harris. So it will tell you a lot about how these markets have been structured for ages. Like this book was written maybe 35 years ago, and most of the stuff that's in it is still very, very relevant. It's one of the first books. It's actually one of the books which is really yellow in my bookshelf because I bought it that, like, and I don't keep it very well. But nonetheless, point being, that's a good place to start. And then once you understand how the market microstructure works, then, when you try, let's say, reading Zerodha Versity or any of the other resources online, some of these things will start making more sense. But I don't know if Pavan or Pranav or Yash, if you have any other resources to suggest. Doesn't seem so. So I'll take that as a no.
Okay,
Uh,
Ankit, if it's not too much to ask, like for you, like can you do some Medium post again on some basic execution algo that you have done? Like
yeah, Avinash,
might be the
listen.
one you have discarded. Even that is fine. But
No,
we
no.
just
The
I just
thing
wanted
is,
to get an insight.
no. So the thing is with writing on Medium and all, right? There's a. I was telling this morning actually to Prashant Bhai ki there are at least 4 draft articles in my Medium account which I have not been able to spend time on. आज मैंने इस पे 2 ढाई घंटे लगा दिए, which is completely unplanned. But I intend to write more stuff, which is non-proprietary for sure. But right now I'm just split through the scenes with a lot of stuff we are trying to build for Decibel and Dice. But yeah, I'm hoping starting next year or early next year, I'll be able to get back to some more writing. Uh, but yeah, fairly feedback taken. I'm sorry to disappoint at this time. Yeah.
No, that's fine. I just hope the first out of the pipeline is something on this.
Yeah, so the thing is that people, if I mean, it's a kind of a catch 22 situation as well. If I spend like 6 months on building something, on figuring out something, I will not write about it. I will write about general principles and stuff like that. So no, that's always there. What will I share that will you probably cannot find somewhere else, and B will actually help you immediately. So both of these things usually will not go hand in hand. If it's easily available out there, it will not help you immediately. If it has to help you immediately, it will not be found anywhere. So it's it's a trade-off.
Yeah, yeah, I agree on that. But I was more asking like something to start off with for anybody looking into that space.
Yeah. Right now, I'm constrained by my bandwidth. I completely understand. I am constrained by my bandwidth right now, to be honest. Uh, but yeah, I'll probably in not too far future I will get back to it.
Yeah,
All right.
sure, sure, sure.
My
And no spoon. And that was not like more of expecting like spoon feeding stuff and all. So yeah.
No. I understand. Yeah. All right. Thanks,
Thanks,
Avinash.
Ankit.
Vivek, thanks. Vivek, you want to go next?
Hey, Ankit, thanks. Yeah, I did not really have questions as such, but um, doing this as a trade, I mean, this is what I do for a living, right? Execution algorithms. I just wanted to share my 2 cents worth because I was taking notes around various questions that people were asking, and I think a majority of the people, as harsh as this may sound, is they are missing the woods for the trees. You talk about WebSockets, you talk about multiple brokers, streaming data, and so on. I mean, I would take a step back and understand what I'm dealing with. Majority of people said they work with Zerodha. How many of the listeners here, or actual people who execute on Zerodha, have taken the pains to then understand what their system looks like? What are their error codes, their requests? How should you serialize and deserialize data? And how many people know that Zerodha is not the exchange? They have their own order management system. And again, this is not me preaching, but starting from very general principles so that you start questioning everything that you're seeing. It's very easy to get code out there and say, I'll run a loop, I'll keep trying, I'll keep polling. Collectively, everybody starts pulling the Zerodha API endpoint. The next thing you know, it is chock full and it drops for everybody, right? And coming to the choice of platform or technology, I mean, to say Python is slow or .NET is fast or .NET is slow and Python is fast, I think unless somebody has taken pains and spent probably decades coding, uh, I think it's not fair and it doesn't matter. And if your alpha is so dependent, then either you are an HFT guy or a market maker. And if you're a market maker or an HFT guy and are dealing with those issues, then you shouldn't be doing that in the first place. Sorry, this may sound harsh, but I think this is something that we need to start questioning. I am a discretionary trader, although I write, I write these execution algos for a living. Something as simple as, I heard somebody say at the very beginning that, I'm trying to, send open like X socket connections. The question would be why? Why do you want to do that? If you do that, what are you achieving that you wouldn't if you don't open 5 socket connections at once? You are trying to get, prices streaming for like 100 instruments. Why? Subscribe to the instruments that you are opening a trade for. Why do you want to gather all of the data in the world and then say my systems are going slow? Doesn't work like that. You have got a partial fill, you have not, then you need a state machine. And I think a lot of other speakers alluded to this, that have an engine. Your interface with Zerodha or whatever API should be a single point. If you're opening 5 sockets, if your algo is opening a socket at a time and in interacting with Zerodha independently, you have got the basics raw right there. So forget anything else. You need to understand how to design basic systems. And long term, who are you placed against? And is algo trading about finding alpha? Like we get confused with so many of these things because algo trading is not going to make you money. It is for the big players in the market to ensure that they can execute well, or for people offering alpha as a service where they can execute say 100, 200, 500 orders at a time. We execute thousands of orders, and trust me, we don't have a backup. Things go down. So for example, if I was using Zerodha going down, the desk will start manually executing. So anybody trying to build multiple broker redundancies, unless you are taking home, I don't know, hundreds and thousands of dollars or the Indian equivalent, I think you're looking at the wrong things here. So maybe we need a change in the way we look at things is all. Sorry, this was not, not meant to
No,
be
I
a
think
big.
Vivek, you did a very good summary of the space. ये 2.5 घंटे से चल रहा है, 3 घंटे से, पता नहीं 2.5 घंटे से चल रहा है आई थिंक. एंड जितनी आपने चीजें बोली है ना, वो उतनी देर से मैंने कहीं ना किसी स्पीकर ने आगे डेफिनेटली बोल दी है. तो अगर किसी ने 2 घंटे नहीं सुना
Very
है
good
और
closure
आपका
to it.
स्पेस, सॉरी, हाँ किसी ने सुन लिया विवेक ने जो कहा था, तो इस समरी. सो थैंक यू विवेक फॉर दैट. Pawan and Prashant, I think you unmuted, one of you unmuted. You say
Yeah, I just wanted to very quickly just say that Vivek is spot on in what he said. Um, as retail traders get more and more involved with algos and automating their trades, you're going to try. They're essentially going to try and say that I've done this back test. I need, if only I can get in my order in this time. If only I can do that, I'll be good. But I think that's a fallacy, and you have to be considerate of the fact that the entire architecture that you're dealing with has got so many of these failure points in there. If you think about how a lot of the institutional work happens, it's not happening on REST APIs. It's happening using fixed protocols. Logic generation is tightly coded with the execution. So I think we need to take a step back and understand that if if we try to build strategies which are reliant on exactly at that time, at that price, executing, that's going to, and if there's a small slippage and then our entire strategy work, and we keep fighting to try and get that order in, uh, we're just going to set ourselves for failure. So I completely echo what Vivek was saying.
And Prashant, just to add, a lot of traders don't even look into half-life of their strategy, right? If you are entering at whatever point, at मैंने कल एक tweet डाला था, your backtest aim should not be to find a smooth equity curve, but find where it breaks. So one of the things is to, this latency kind of a thing, delay kind of a thing is कि यार, am I really creating alpha by entering at 920, or will I, can I sustain that delay? Just to add what Prashant said, right? Is this, as a trader, even before you go to the execution state, right? You have to do this research ki yaar, what is the tolerance of my backtest? Where will it fail? How sensitive I am to the levels, how sensitive I am to the time, how sensitive are my parameters, before you start thinking about execution. So just wanted to add that, and of course, Vivek has
Yeah,
elaborated on it.
the other thing I'll say is that Vivek again mentioned how if you're placing, for example, if my system is placing 1,000 lots or 2,000 lots or whatever, and something goes wrong, it's really going to be the guy who is got his hawk eyes on that terminal who's going to go in and make it right. So uh, I just, I just get a little bit, I speak to a lot of new traders, and they sort of seeming to get the impression that it's this algo, their algo system is a switch it on, sit on the beach, sip a margarita, and make money. And it's not that, right? It's not even a part-time activity. There was a school teacher that I was talking to, and she was asking me about, she wants to get into algo trading, and then, but she said that, she's got classes through the day, and so will that work? And really, it's difficult to answer and explain to somebody who's getting excited about automated trading, and then having them understand that this is an activity which actually needs you to be vigilant of what's happening much more than it takes away the decision making, of course, of manually placing trades, but your vigilance has to step up a notch. Maybe again, I'm ranting, but uh,
नहीं वो rant लगता है
those are
या
my
तो
two thoughts.
असलियत तो यही है. That's what Prashant bhai, when I started, I mean, of course, I started as a trader 10-15 years ago, but in the algo space I'm fairly new, so I also have those notions na. And it got broken by the market only, and it got broken by a lot of things, and of course by speaking to a lot of people. So it's not really
Yeah,
a rant, it's
if you
coming out
look
of
at what
experience.
exactly, if you look at what is the standard platform that's used by most institutions in India, it's Greeksoft, and somebody mentioned Utrade, but uh, Greeksoft is communicating with the broker end using Fix, and that is why it's one of the crazy robust systems that's out there. Uh, you know, so we have to recognize what the limitations are of REST and web. It's designed to automate certain trades, but it's not designed for you to get your 20 orders within 1 second. It's not designed to do that. It's not designed to enable thousands of people to do all that in that 1 second. And that is, I think, one of the reasons why uh, a lot of intraday traders are exposing themselves to systematic risk of one stop loss triggering and that whole effect cascading through the entire option chain. Somebody's stop loss, large stop loss at maybe 39,500 triggers, and then that effect cascades to the 39,200 strike, and somebody's stop loss triggers over there. And people don't understand कि ये कैसे हो गया, right? But these cascading effects play out as larger and larger capital is trading on these option price stop losses and things like that.
Lovely, Prashant bhai. I mean, anybody who could have put it that succinctly is you. So lovely. Thank you. I know Nitish has been waiting forever. Thanks for patiently waiting, man. Uh, Probably the last question before we close out the space.
Oh,
Nitish.
oh, you're getting more than you bargained for, right? And thanks for waiting. I have three questions, but first I would like to start. I took notes, so first I would like to start off with a couple of thanks, right? So thank you for organizing this space, right? I've seen all kinds of spaces about trading on Twitter, but perhaps this is the most meaningful. Even non-algo traders can benefit from the discussions here. And also thanks to Vivek, right? Vivek Garodia. When I started my algo trading journey, he was one of the few people, trading, full-time trading is a very lonely profession. And, Vivek provided the much wanted relief. I think he's not here anymore, but I still owe him 2,000 rupees for the, yeah.
Why? No, no, you should tell that first. Why do you owe him 2,000 rupees? Yeah.
Yeah, because as soon as he landed in Delhi, he held a meetup and I went to the meetup and somehow none of my payment methods worked. So, it
Okay,
was
okay.
at a fancy schmancy bar.
I
But
thought I
whatever.
thought you guys made a bet and then lost money after. Okay, okay, cool.
Yeah, yeah, cool. So here are my three questions, right? So before the third three questions, first of all, I would say that in the very recent discussion, like in the past 5-10 minutes, I would say simple automation isn't really algo, right? Algo isn't just automation of manual systems. It's only if you go, if your programming allows you to go above and beyond your manual execution, that's what you can call an algo, right? Otherwise, it's just a robot. So, in that same vein, continuing, so what we heard and the topic of the room is about how do you separate execution engine? So, I heard a lot about, and I'm truly intrigued by that. In what way do you separate the execution engine? Because I can imagine like a world of possibilities, right? So if something is not getting executed in one broker, you switch to the other broker. If you're not getting good fees from one side, you switch to the fees from the other side. So, but how exactly? What's the architecture? And the biggest hint in this is recently a Twitter user named Indian Quant hinted at doing some work on microservices. Something that we think that only Netflix and Amazon do. So maybe is this an microservice kind of architecture, or do you separate the classes, and then you run the class separately on a separate thread? So that's my first question. Second question is on there was this specific question on recording live data, right? So a person was saying that he subscribed to like 200 WebSocket feeds, and he wants to save that data, but the moment he starts saving the data, there's a huge lag. I actually did this, and my experience is that SQLite is perhaps the one that saves the day. So I used to use SQLite to record the live data, and then when the day is done, I used to transfer that data to MySQL. Why MySQL? MySQL is pretty archaic, but it's very well documented. So whenever I need to do any analysis, any kind of pivots, or any kind of match and find, I could always find a MySQL solution on Google, right? That's how we are all programmers. And my last question. Uh, so the second question was on SQLite, if anyone has used it and what your experience with it. And my last question is on something that I've not tried, but there were some questions about C++ or C sharp, right? So I've never tried either of these, and I've not even tried what I'm about to say, Python, right? So a Python is said to be a way that you can easily transpile your code to quote unquote transpile your code to C++ or C. So that should be a good solution if you want to just speed up your Python scripts. If anyone has tried it, and what are your experiences?
So, okay, I'm gonna say I am not even qualified to answer question two or three. Two, because SQLite we have not used in our infrastructure is Postgre and Redis, and I'm honestly, I have a CTO who manages this. I'm most likely pretending to be a cool techie guy, but I'm only halfway there, to be very honest. Uh, and the third one, Python, we've not used it, so I'm not sure if I can answer that. Vivek, do you want to take a first question of Nitish?
Yeah, I
I mean,
can,
I can add
I
my
can
two
take a
cents, but
jab. Yeah, I
why
can
don't
take
we
a
hear
jab
him?
at it. Sorry, Ankit, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. Apologies.
No, that's okay. I'm saying, do you want to, I mean, I can always add a couple of points to his first question, but do you want to take up the first question
Yeah,
of
yeah,
Nitish?
sure, sure. So, I mean, at the end of the day, what you asked there, is the answer itself. If you are building an engine, the question is why microservice, right? What is microservice going to achieve that say a monolith won't, because you have used an IT jargon. I'm responding accordingly, but for others who are probably not software developers or practitioners, microservice is saying I'll slice and dice my work and get 100 chunks of little chunks of code to do things for me, whereas a monolith is just saying, I have this one instance that is going to do everything for me. So far as the architecture is concerned, Nitish, I think one needs to again go back to the very basics, and I'll go back to Zerodha. Although I've never used it, I don't own an account. I don't own an account at Zerodha. So you're facing off with the Zerodha WebSocket API or the REST API. The interface that is talking to Zerodha is where your engine begins. You log into the system, you get responses, you place requests, you get responses. All of that processing happening there is what would define an engine. Now you could have in your system 100 strategies running, right? 100 algos running. Your engine is the orchestrator to then ensure that all of those strategies A can do what they want, and B, they have whatever they need to do what they are supposed to. I don't know if this is making it any easier, but it's just an interface that is able to process things for you, especially messages, and then orchestrate your algos that sit behind that curtain, if that helps. And on the question of SQLite, I think if we really want to talk technology, then a lot of prop shops, HFT in particular, use KDB. So if you really want to go there, I would say cut everything else out, go to KDB. That's my 2 cents, Angit. Thanks.
Yeah,
KDB
yeah.
यार आपने बोल के ना बहुत पुराना टाइम याद दिलवा दिया. There was this time when I learned KDB as part of my role. But I was always, I think you've hit it nailed on its head that high frequency में तो everybody uses KDB. ये SQL, and the biggest difference, if for anybody who's uninitiated, between KDB and some of the relational databases like SQL and whatever these are, is that KDB में that the data is structured in a time series fashion. So you access columns of data in one go rather than rows. So, in my very naive understanding of whatever little I learned, it actually speeds up your operations on time series data by I don't know how many magnitudes of levels, right? So fantastic. Sorry, Nitish, I know you were going to
Yeah,
follow
yeah,
up. So
yeah,
please
yeah.
go
So
ahead.
so KDB, yes, I did experiment with KDB, and a couple of my friends do work in HFT shops. But the problem with KDB is, number one, it's a very how do you call it, esoteric querying language. In fact, it's not even
Yes,
that's the best way
I
to
agree.
replace it. Yeah, and also it's not it's not very OS friendly. It's not very OS friendly. It crashes frequently. So I mean, I'm relaying something from HFT. It may not happen in our time frames when we retail REST API consumers. Uh, but yeah, it crashes frequently. So it's an extra a curve. Whereas SQLite, in my experience, SQLite is geared. Is the whole intention of SQLite is to handle fast moving websites in the API web space, in the consumer HTTP REST API web space. So that's why I felt that of all the high speed databases, if you want to collect data throughout the day for entire day, uh, SQLite is pretty stable and fast enough for transactions. And then at the end of the day, you transfer it to a friendly neighborhood database. So that was my experience, and that was my simple question. But thank you for the first part of the answer. That was very enlightening. Thank you.
All right, so there's one more speaker, Aditya, a lone trader, the last speaker for the space.
Hey, hi all. Just a quick question. Like I'm just looking for the historical data. Can you suggest any reliable provider for that?
भाई गूगल करो ट्रू डेटा GDFL reliable as reliable as you can get. मतलब I would not say they are 100% error free. अगर simplest ways to get really quickly get started, these are the two authorized data vendors really.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so before I close the space, Pranav was saying something, so he just DM'd me. So I'm just gonna speak on his behalf. He's having some problems with this joining spaces. So I think he was a part at somewhere, maybe half an hour ago. So his first point is around the options chain data. Somebody asked, how do you can I get an option chain data from XYZ broker? And the way Pranav wants to add was that no broker offers really an option chain as you are used to seeing in this uh, public space, right? All this anything with GUI, anything with a good front end. It's essentially what is option chain is just an list of instruments, all the options that you have, and then sorted in a way that out of money and in the money are in one particular order. So and then you can calculate whatever IVs and Greeks you want from the simple option price data. And I think that's what a lot of us and a lot of execution people who are doing this work anyways do. We don't rely upon brokers to provide us with such stuff. We need is an LTP or a price data, and then we know the strikes and whatever, and we can calculate, anybody can code it up and calculate it themselves. So this thought process was he wanted to clarify that, Pranav. And what he also wanted to add in continuation of what Prashant and Vivek was speaking, so he says that he once listened to an HFT guy talking about how they structure their code and how they structure their if statements. So at that level, actually, an FTFT coder was saying that how to structure the if statement so that they can be microseconds faster is one of their tasks. So it's because HFT is uh, latency sensitive, and you're optimizing your code to run that even if it's 1 microsecond or whatever the time might be faster. So for given the space in which we are in, wherein we are not even thinking on those lines, what um, let alone fixed protocol, we are very well in web API, REST API based work. Python is not going to be the bottleneck or limiting factor. So the question around whether we should use Python or C sharp, and whether it will be reducing our slippages, uh, it's not the right way of thinking about these things. And I think that's what Pranav wanted to kind of allude to. So Pranav, I hope you are at least able to listen to this. Pranav K and the topi wala, chashme wala banda on the sorted guy. Sorry. All right, guys. I would like to call it a night. It's been fun. As always, I didn't expect it to run for 3 hours. Uh, I just opened a space on the basis of what do you call it? Me facing some of the issues in execution today. I just thought it would be a fun idea to chat up with a few folks. So, very happy to have exchange ideas, and I hope you all have a good night, and maybe we'll touch base again in one of the other spaces. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody. And I'm just going to end this. Good night.